Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome. So let's start off, talk a little bit about what Movember is. So I'm a Sista. I have a team. It's called Getting Stashy With It. And so as I'm trying to recruit new members, everyone always says to me, so what is Movember? I think it'd be great for us to hear from you. What is Movember?
Sure. It's a month formerly known as November. And it was an idea that was born over beers back in 2003 in Australia. It was my brother and a friend having a conversation about fashion and how things cycle back into style eventually. And a few more beers, and it was like, there has to be some stuff that hasn't made a comeback. And this is 2003, and they thought of two things, macrame and moustaches. So our next talk will be after we bring back macrame.
Put that one aside for later.
Yeah, so the day ended with a challenge to bring back the moustache, actually put the moustache back on the face of fashion, which arguably we've sort of done. But in 2003, 30 of us are doing it. We're sort of late 20s, early 30s at that stage. We were the only dudes in Australia with moustaches at that stage. Only dudes. So the reaction we got was quite amazing. So, but it's transformed from that to be a charitable movement. So that's what Movember is.
Tell us a little bit about how the program actually works. So mechanics of Movember. 11/1 comes around. What are people supposed to do?
Yeah, the rules that we defined back then stand today, which is to start the month clean shaven, and then grow a moustache over the course of the 30 days. Mm-hmm. And over our evolution, we developed our tagline, which is changing the face of men's health. So that eloquently describes a challenge for men, which is to change your appearance by growing a moustache. And it also describes the ultimate outcome, which is getting men engaged in their health, talking about their health, and raising funds and awareness for men's health.
Yep. Tell us a little bit about some of the programs that the funds raised during Movember support.
Sure. So right from the start, part of the inspiration for Movember actually came from the women around us and all they were doing for breast cancer. And the four of us that started Movember, we were all involved in that cause in a small way. And we were inspired by that. And when we stumbled across Movember and this month-long journey, which in the first year was purely just for fun and to have an excuse for a moustache-themed party, the next year we came together and thought, and we got so much shit for it. It was like, we need to legitimize this so we can get away with it. It was sort of part of the motivation. And but yeah, then we started thinking about it, and it was like, women have done an amazing job at creating causes, movements around their health and children's health. But there was really nothing. And if you take Movember off the table, there's still not much for men's health. And people sort of often ask me, well, why do you focus on men's health? And it is a really significant issue. On average, men die 5 to 6 years earlier than women. And there's absolutely no biological reason for that. And it's sort of a gender inequality that no one is talking about. And we want to put a focus on it in a positive way. And so that became a starting point. Let's do something for men and for men's health. And we started to research it. And we focused on the two male-only cancers initially, which is prostate and testicular cancer. And we were shocked when we looked at prostate cancer. It has the same social impact as breast cancer. So roughly the same number of men are diagnosed with that disease, and sadly the same number of men roughly pass from that disease as women with breast cancer. And we were shocked. It was like nothing for us. So that became our initial focus.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the other people who were around you when you started the Movember really push, where you were like, we have something here, we have a really great idea. Tell us a little bit about the other people that you founded this with, who were supporting you, and then the other people in your community.
Yeah, sure. Well, one of them was my brother, and then two really good mates, so JC and Luke. And so my brother, Trav, and Luke had the initial conversation about fashion and wanting to bring back the moustache, and then JC and I got involved in the initial year growing moustaches, and more involved in the next year to formalize the Movember Foundation and create a charitable movement. And it was sort of this sort of happy accident, really, that the four of us came together. We all had different but complementary skills. I was the guy that sort of thought big but got shit done. My brother was the creative and didn't really want to get shit done, wanted to focus on the creative.
Right. Which is why macrame might have been a
right, exactly. Right? And you got JC, who's the ultimate salesperson, thought this could be the biggest thing in the world. And we go, no, that's bullshit. Like, let's just tame it. And then you got Luke, who was very focused on how do we engage the youth in a campaign. So we came at this, none of us had any charitable experience whatsoever. And I think that's on reflection of this journey, it served us so well to have that naivety, because we approached this from a sort of a branding perspective. Technology was the heart of what we were doing. And we had no concept around how traditionally charities operated, marketed themselves, and things like that. And it served us really well. And I often contemplate if my starting point was as the chief marketing officer of the Prostate Cancer Foundation, and the CEO at the time came to me and said, hey, we need to create this campaign that's going to engage young men in this older man's disease, and we want it to be a national thing. If that was my starting point, there is no way known I would have gone, let's get men to grow mustaches. Yeah. And I think that's something really important for us as an organization as we grow, but for everyone to sort of, it's not just about thinking outside the box, it's actually about living outside the box. And thinking about things so differently to sort of disrupt, how we raise awareness or funds.
Right. Tell us a little bit more about the journey. So we talked a little bit about the starting point and like how you guys sort of got the idea off the ground and who the team was. Talk a little bit about how you go from 30 guys in Australia 1 year to 21 countries and over 4 million participants 10 years later. Like rough numbers there. Right,
yeah. I mean, that's been over the course of sort of 10, 11 years. Yeah. And it's sort of a common question, like, how did you do this? There were four of us that inspired a room full of 30 people. And those 30 people the next year went on to inspire 450 people, and then 10,000 people, and so it grew. And often I think sort of deeply about this because at the time we were just doing stuff and we were focused on making it happen. But on the other side of it, you sort of reflect back and go, well, what was the magic ingredient in all this? And one thing I often think about is that never underestimate the power and influence of a room full of people. And it's a privilege to be here to tell this story, because it was literally four of us that inspired 30 people, that then inspired 450 people, and so on and so forth. And it became a movement in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada, UK, and now 21 countries. And it started in every case, in every country, with a room full of people. And we were able to share our vision of what we wanted to achieve. And it was a mix of having fun, doing good for a cause that was totally and still is underserved.
I feel like this takes us to one of the sort of themes that we want to talk through tonight. So we have a number of sort of like dichotomies to explore thematically. One of which is online versus offline, and the story that you just told about that transformation from one sort of local area to another. You guys have had so much great success both online and offline. Can you speak a little bit about first to the role that technology has played in the ability for you guys to spread your message globally?
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's no doubt that our technology, which we developed ourselves and have continued to evolve and own ourselves now, there's been a couple of elements at the core of Movember. One is our technology platform and our focus on that. One is our brand. And we run the same technology platform over 21 countries. And that just enables us to have amazing economies of scale and flexibility around the experience. And really what we've tried to do with our technology platform is create a social media platform, albeit around a cause and for a very short period of time. But when you're creating a movement like we've done, it's about connecting people. that share this vision. And we've done a lot of work to be able to do that. So if you're a Mobro or Mo Sister in New York, you can connect to someone in South Africa or Belfast or Sydney, Australia, and who are doing the same thing and share this common purpose. And it's been interesting, you know, when we started Movember, this was well before social media, and the hub of our community is our website. And email is still absolutely king by an absolute mile. Email marketing and empowering the Mobros and Mo Sisters to be able to send email messaging by a mile is still king. But I do remember, I think it was 2006, I might be getting the dates wrong, but our first foray into social media was our MySpace account. And when you register at Movember, everyone gets a personalized page, and we call it a MoSpace page, which is taking the piss out of MySpace, which we actually didn't realize at the time. We thought that was going to be the biggest thing ever, and it's like totally bombed. So it was like, we went through a phase. It's like, do we change the name MoSpace? And it was like, no.
No, I gotta let it stay.
But everyone now has this amazing ability to broadcast whatever it is they're doing through a number of mediums, and it's so simple. But with that comes so much noise. So the challenge now is, yes, everyone can amplify whatever they're doing and for a cause so easily, but with that comes so much activity.
Right.
And for us, it's like continually trying to raise the bar. But what's also been really, really important for us is making sure this is just not online and having events like this. And we often say for the guys, it's that look and So you're walking down the street 1 week into Movember and you see another guy sort of walking a little bit sheepishly with this shitty moustache. And it's like, I know how you're feeling, bro.
So we have a sort of technology audience here today. So can you tell us a little bit about if you had to take out like a crystal ball and see into the future, what do you think the next innovation is for Movember in the technology space?
Yeah, it's a great question. One of the challenges we have is a charitable organization. So last year we raised, say, $135 million. And we invest in our technology platform because that's a hub and heart of our environment. Obviously, mobile is a big play, and last year I think we had 35 to 40% of the traffic coming through mobile. Our mobile experience wasn't great, the mobile web and mobile apps. We invested a lot in that this year. And it's really interesting, the benchmark people have when they come to Movember's mobile website or apps, their benchmark is the experience they have on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or WhatsApp or whatever it is they use. And they come there and we get these emails like, your mobile site's shit. And it's like, well, we're not spending $15 million on a mobile website each year, but it becomes this really interesting challenge because that's the expectation that it is simple and as stable and as intuitive as those other applications. So for us on the technology side, improving the mobile experience and making that as simple and reliable as our sort of benchmark applications, which aren't in the charity space, they're what people use. I think for us then also on the program side, it's been really interesting as we dive in, particularly in the research side with prostate and testicular cancer, that again, from just a naive perspective, you jump in this with funding all this research around the world, which sounds great. And then you dive into it and you go, okay, so you guys in Boston and New York and Seattle and Montreal and Sydney and London, you guys are all sort of researching the same thing and we're funding you all. Do you all know each other? And they don't even know each other, let alone collaborate. And it's really interesting at this level of research that foundations like ours fund is there is just absolutely no collaboration. There's actually no incentive for them to collaborate. In fact, it's the opposite. They get funding by getting written up in journals and getting other grants. And so for us, creating a technology platform that enables these researchers to confidently collaborate. And for us, a fundamental principle is around that. And it's not just about sharing what works, which is the traditional thing in cancer research. It's about, hey, what doesn't work? So the other crew can iterate off of that.
So I think this nicely takes us to the sort of global versus national conversation. Talk a little bit about, so we said a couple of things in our conversation about technology. One of which was like, there's a lot of different platforms out there that don't necessarily cross some global lines as much as Movember might. Talk to us a little bit about what it's like to build a platform that actually is designed to go across the globe. Right. Like you've got so many cultures, you've got so many different ways of interacting with each other that you guys are trying to accommodate. How do you guys think about that?
Yeah, it is a tough one because so we've got one essential website, we've got one central database, 21 countries, but I think we've got 57 different variations of the website because you go to Canada's the most obvious example, you've got English and then French Canadian versions of that website. You go to Switzerland, you might have an English, a Swiss, and a French version of the site for that country. And when you start to deploy like that, the simplest of change around a content piece, you need to do that across 57 versions, and that's not even including mobile. So then you go to mobile and you double it. And then you go to the apps, and it becomes exceptionally hard. And the technology guys create the platform. What we've had to focus on and have over the last couple of years is the content guys. And it's been really, really interesting, and it's an ongoing and constant challenge for us because we want to project a global voice and be globally consistent with how we project the Movember brand and our messaging around causes and things like that. But you want to be local as well. So we've got a global content lead, and then we have content people at a local level as well. And there's always this tension around, well, what you're saying in a global level is not going to work in Australia because of this reason. It's not going to work in Switzerland because of this region. And it's really, really hard and difficult to be able to maintain a constant and consistent global brand while enabling people at a local level to customize it to what they need, and particularly when it's non-English, because you can't sanity check that. You can't go, well, I'm not fluent in 12 different languages, so I can't read something and go, in the Czech Republic, yeah, that's on brand. I've got no idea. Obviously. So you sort of hand over the voice of the brand to young content crew that are, tweeting and Facebooking and posting content on our website. So it's really interesting how you protect the brand so much, but you hand it over to these the content crew that have so much influence now around how our brand is projected and perceived.
Marketplace, yeah. So it would be great if you could speak a little bit about the Movember Foundation versus other cancer charities and sort of how you guys approach being a global charity, and are there other sort of charities that have the reach that you guys have today or that you've achieved over the last 11 years?
Yeah, it's been interesting. When we started Movember, and as I mentioned, none of us were from the charity space. It's like, we don't want to be like any other charity. Like, fucking if Komen is doing this, we're doing that. Like, that was sort of our mantra, and it still is today to a large extent, because we really wanted to disrupt the way we went about this. And particularly as for us, it's engaging men in their health. And no man really wants to sit down and chat about their health. Like, we just don't. And
why is that?
it's like when my wife says, all right, we need to sit down and chat. It's like, fuck. What have I done? Yeah, and we just,
I'm not asking you to speak for all mankind here, by the way.
well,
That's all right. You can. I'll let you
we
out
could
of
do a
that
show of hands. It was like,
We'll go back to the charity differentiation.
So, how we engage men in this is really important. And we use the fun of growing a moustache alongside your buddies and work colleagues as a Trojan horse. It's like, hey, let's grow a moustache. And then they get engaged in it. And as you start to grow a moustache, you want to be out there talking about it confidently. So guys go, all right, I need to understand this more. So you get knowledgeable about what Movember's about and the health risks men face. And then over the course of the month, the guys become champions for this cause. And it's really interesting. And we're doing a lot of work around, well, how do you engage men beyond just Movember and get them to access? One of the biggest issues with men's health is we don't seek help early enough when we need to. And that goes for physical ailments, but also mental health challenges as well in particular. And we did some research, and this is going to sound obvious, but women are generally very good at having face-to-face conversations like this. Mm-hmm. Very good at that. Men aren't. Men are really good at having shoulder-to-shoulder conversations. Ones, yeah. And when there's something else going on, and shoulder-to-shoulder conversations when you're growing a moustache or you're watching a game of sport or you're having a beer, it's like, yo, dude, how's the moustache going? What's going on? Right. And that parlays into a conversation then, because you create this environment that feels safe, and then guys start to open up. So for us, in how we sort of market Movember, but then how we fund some of these support services that are critically important for men, those nuances, whilst they might sound basic, are so important. And you look at the majority of health services that are out there, and they're targeted and catered for women and children. And in part, it's because of the great work women have done over the course of the years to do this. And guys go into these things, it's like, we just don't want to be there to start with. We don't want to be sitting down having a conversation. And so we need to sort of change that and mix up the environment a little bit. I've totally forgotten your question. What was it?
We were talking about how Movember is different from other more locally focused cancer charities. We've gone down a little bit of
we went down a boat.
Although I will say the thing that's interesting, I've had some of the best conversations with my fiance when he's been driving and I'm just sitting there, we're both like looking forward. It makes total sense to me now.
No, and it is. And generally for relationships and those sort of those conversations that men just aren't naturally, attuned to wanting to have, it's about creating the right environment.
Right.
Is so important. But I think, we've looked far and wide, and particularly the cancer and healthcare area for other charities that have our reach. And we're in 21 countries. We're the major funder of certainly prostate and testicular cancer research in the world. And that influence, when you're the major funder, you get to make the rules. And we have a competitive component, and then we have a collaborative component. So we'll put out essentially our request for tender type pitches for research institutions to come to us and go, hey, for a particular problem, so that part is competitive, which is important. But beyond that, it's collaborative. And we looked at that industry and thought, well, how can we get them working together when the industry is not structured around collaboration? And so we actually fund them to collaborate.
So I'm going to pause you really quickly because we have a really great video, I think, that sort of captures this.
Movember's vision is to have an everlasting impact on men's health. To do this, we needed a new way of working to solve the key challenges. In an unprecedented international effort, we devised the Movember Global Action Plan, or GAP. This unique initiative brings together global teams of the brightest prostate and testicular cancer researchers, collaborating towards a common goal in solving the key challenges faced by patients. This meeting of the minds accelerates research by unlocking a new level of knowledge sharing and global collaboration. Movember funded research, working together to beat prostate and testicular cancer, the Movember Global Action Plan.
In the first global project, we're focusing on creating better tests for prostate cancer. Tests that more accurately distinguish between low-risk and aggressive forms of the disease.
To do this, we will be examining biomarkers, specifically blood, urine, and tissue tests. Biomarkers are biological indicators that can measure the severity of disease.
The ultimate goal is for every man diagnosed with prostate cancer to receive a tailored treatment plan that best suits their specific cancer.
Surgery, radiation, or other treatments will only be performed when aggressive prostate cancer is detected, reducing side effects such as incontinence and sexual dysfunction in men with low-risk disease, and thereby improving a man's quality of life.
Movember's Global Action Plan. Researching biomarkers. Better testing. Tailored treatment. Improving the lives of men diagnosed with prostate cancer. Movember, one of the world's largest funders in prostate and testicular cancer research, bringing together the smartest minds from across the globe.
We're working differently. We're collaborating on a global scale. We're accelerating outcomes for men.
We are changing the face of research by breaking down barriers.
No borders, no boundaries, no limits to beat prostate and testicular cancer.
Movember's Global Action Plan, having an everlasting impact on men's health.
I wanted to show that video because I think that the collaboration versus competition model that you guys are trying to break down is so interesting. And it's great to see sort of that in action through those researchers that you guys are funding. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about, how you guys actually went about doing that. How did Movember take on this challenge? What was the opportunity that you saw? And then what were the things that you did to say, we're going to actually change how you guys are doing this so that we can make this better?
Yeah, it's. I think it comes back to that naivety and just looking at this from a common sense point of view. And as I mentioned, there's no other cancer or certainly Cancer Foundation that is in this space that has the reach we do. And we're in 21 countries and the major funder. So you've got this opportunity then to understand in those countries who you're funding and tailor some parameters around, if you want our funding, here's what we want you to do. And it was really interesting. We've been doing this now for 4 or 5 years, the GAP program. And on the prostate cancer side, we've got about 500-600 of the world's leading prostate cancer researchers now working on various projects together. And it was a really interesting cultural shift. And there was certainly a number of researchers that said, no, we don't want to be part of that for whatever reason. But the vast majority said, yes, this would be amazing. It'd be amazing if there was a New York-based researcher that were connected with someone in the Netherlands that were researching the exact same thing, and they could collaborate. And it's sort of common sense, right, to us. And these are very, very complex things that they're researching and trying to solve. But the way they're going about it is like it's 1960 or 70. And the other good thing is there's clearly a new generation of researchers that are coming through with a very, very collaborative approach to this. And they're not so concerned about IP. And they're more concerned about solving the problems than, handing over some IP to a pharmaceutical company to then, market it and, create shareholder value. And this has been the interesting thing as we go down this path around intellectual property versus solving the ultimate problem. But yeah, we've looked for many, many examples. The AIDS movement is probably the best example that we've found where they've truly collaborated at a global level to solve this problem, and they're all focused on the end state and creating treatments and vaccines to stop this disease. So we've taken a lot of the approach from that research into what we're doing now for prostate and testicular cancer. And people ask me, well, what's the end state here? What's the aim? And the aim for us is to effectively cure prostate and testicular cancer. And we're on the path to doing that. And your efforts are helping that. And no matter whether you're raising $100 or $200 or $50, it doesn't matter. It's the sum of all parts. And we always say we're not after an Australian cure here, we're not after an American cure here, we're after the cure. And it'll come from, there won't be one cure, there'll be hundreds of cures for this. And we're not saying the disease will go away. There's not, to our knowledge, going to be a vaccine that'll come along and wipe out either prostate or testicular cancer. But over the course of time, and we now know through funded research at University of Michigan, there's 28 types of prostate cancer. 20% of those are aggressive and need aggressive forms of treatment, surgery or radiation. The 80% are going to be slow growing, and they can be treated through active surveillance, diet and exercise, and a regime of medication. But the issue at the moment is we can't tell a guy what type of prostate cancer he's got. So these guys, and Ron, that I've known for a long time, is in the audience and went through active surveillance. But a lot of guys jump in and go, I've got cancer, I need to get this out of my body. And you go, okay, well, that's fine, you have surgery or radiation. But the issues with that prostate cancer are the side effects: incontinence, impotence, bowel disorder, depression. And guys that jump into this come out and go, all right, I'm cancer-free. But then 2 weeks later, they're going, I can't have sex, I've got to wear a diaper, I'm depressed. My quality of life is so bad that, you know, I'd rather be living through cancer and dealing with that than having gone through this. And that's the point we're at the moment. And so our end state for both prostate and testicular cancer is to create and accelerate a world where no man dies from either of those diseases. And we're well down the path for testicular cancer, 5 to 10 years away from that. If a guy has symptoms and doesn't show up to the doctor, he will die. So there's always going to be an awareness and education piece, but we're funding the last piece of that puzzle. 5% of guys that get testicular cancer sadly pass from it. But we've just funded $3 million, and we're connecting the best researchers in the world to solve that last piece of the problem. It might be 5 years away, be done. Be a manageable chronic disease. And prostate cancer, more complex, it's probably going to take us another 10 or 15 years. So, you know, anyone here in their 20s or 30s, by the time you come into the at-risk age group for prostate cancer, which is 45 years or plus, it'll be a very manageable disease. And yeah, you're going to need to go through treatment for a few months, but you'll be good.
That's great. So you talked a lot about the end state, which I think brings us to the sort of conversation around successful to significant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you've talked a little bit about what success looks like, and you've talked a little bit about the impact. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about how you envision the impact that Movember is making on the world, other than some of the things that you just talked about,
Sure.
like the tangible things that, like the research that's being done in the cures and the treatments. How do you think about what success looks like for Movember?
Yeah, and this is a topic I've thought deeply about as well. And I think all of us go through the first part of our lives trying to be successful. And whether that's through academics or sports or your career and progressing and getting more pay and stuff. I think initially we focus on being successful. And there becomes a point in your life where that's wonderful and that enables you to do certain things. But then you realize, and this is what happened with us when we started Movember, not consciously, was the most important thing in your life you can all do is do something significant. And that to me means serving people less fortunate than yourself, in your community, whatever it is. And that is the most rewarding thing that you can ever do. And I think, in part, that's sort of how Movember sort of started. You know, we're all focused on being successful in our various careers, and then it's like, you know, we want to do something good in our community, and then it was about being significant. And even with Movember, initially we were focused on being successful, and success to us was more guys growing, more funds, launching in more countries. And then you get to a point and it was like, well, that's interesting, but our purpose here is having a significant impact on men's health. So it shifts your thinking to go, what's really important is being significant. And for us now, it's not about more people participating or more countries. It's that significance of truly moving the dial. And you know, one at a very top level, one of the indicators there is men living as long as women. And if we can get men living healthier, happier, longer lives, women will live happier, healthier, longer lives, so will children, and that'll benefit society.
It sounds like the difference a little bit too is when you're looking at how you measure success versus significance, you're really playing the long game on the significant piece, right? You're not talking about like the number of people growing mustaches for 31 days. Right. You're talking about these long-term impacts that you guys are having on really global communities. Yeah,
totally. And absolutely, that's the long-term view, but it's all fueled by, you know, the micro level.
Right.
And you know, it's really interesting. Our building block is every guy, every Mobro, every Mo Sista participating, signing up, and raising a little bit of money and having that conversation. And it doesn't sound much at an individual level, but when you multiply that by a million people doing that, it's a significant, you know, global voice, and enables us to fund all these amazing programs.
Let's talk a little bit about the men plus women here. We've done a lot of this versus that, this to that, and now men and women together. You've talked a lot about sort of closing the gender gap, the lifespan gap between men and women, and sort of how you've flipped the model of traditional fundraising. Talk a little bit about, if you could, now that you flipped that model, it sounds like you guys are now you're now reaching out to women to be a part of the movement as well. When did you guys make that transformation, and what's it meant to Movember so far?
Yeah. So let's be clear. We're not encouraging women to grow mustaches.
Correct.
Right off the bat. Right off the bat.
I wouldn't have signed up otherwise. I think I did a little homework, knew what I was getting into there.
But right from the start, we recognized that women are such a significant part of Movember. I mean, they're typically the gatekeepers to a guy doing Movember. It's like
you're like laughing in the audience.
If the girls in your life are going, I'm not sure about this, then you're probably not going to do it, right? And you know, yeah, we get single dudes going, no, I'm not. Yeah, this is not going to be helpful during the month. But actually, the opposite happens, because when you think about it, a dude that's growing a mustache, not looking his best, but trying his hardest to do something to improve, you know, his knowledge of men's health and something. Who doesn't love that sort of person, right? But women play such a critically important role in men's health. Then, in a interesting parallel, they play a similar role in Movember. It's like women are normally the people that are encouraging us to go to the doctor for, you know, an annual check or when we're sick, and in Movember, they're the ones sort of encouraging us, hopefully, to participate and enjoy the campaign, because getting men engaged in this is so helpful and productive, you know, generally, beyond just getting men engaged in their health. It's like opening up conversations and things like that. So women have always played a huge role in Movember, because we always thought it's like, if we had a party at the end of the month and it was just a room full of dudes with mustaches, it's pretty weird, right? But we were also looking at ways where, and we're exploring ways for the first time ever next year, ways for women to tangibly commit to be part of Movember. And the project that I'm working on, which will come more to life next year, is, and one of the challenges we've got at Movember is, how do we stay fresh and relevant for a guy that's done Movember 2 years in a row? It's sort of, it's a bit of a tick in the box thing, right? So I've been working on a program called MOVE. So the first four letters of Movember are MOVE. And one of the best things you can do for your health, mentally and physically, is staying active, no matter your age. So we're going to implement a MOVE program next year where you'll be able to grow a mustache and or make a commitment to move over the course of the month. So for the first time ever, most sisters will be able to sign up, make a commitment to move, and the way we'll tie it back to men's health is you'll be encouraged to issue that challenge to the men in your life, so your dad, your uncle, your colleagues, husbands, boyfriends, and get them involved and move for the entire month of November. So it's an exciting project that we're working on. We'll launch that next year.
That's awesome. I am sure my fiance is grimacing right now at the idea of me challenging him to something else. So we only have a couple of seconds left, so or a couple of minutes left. So wanted to make sure we left some time to talk about how everyone who's in the room today and who's going to watch this video online can get involved. What can they do when they leave the doors, other than go have another delicious beer and grab some more tasty food?
Sure. For us, it's about participation. Guys and girls signing up at Movember.com, and for the guys signing up, recruiting a team, growing for the month, and anyone that's on the fence for Movember, whether they've done it before and they're not sure about it, I always say, I'll guarantee you'll have one conversation during Movember because of your mustache that will make it all worthwhile. It might be with your dad, your uncle, your brother, your work colleague. I guarantee you, forget fundraising, forget everything else, I guarantee you'll have one conversation that makes it all worthwhile, because I've been doing this 12 years, and every year I've at least had one conversation that has been so transformative for my relationship with my dad, my friend, my brother, whatever it is. So that's for the guys. For the girls, similarly, sign up as a team captain and then recruit and pressure, bug, nag, all the dudes in your life to be part of your team. Excellent. And get them growing.
Check. So we're also here kicking off the U.S. Tech Challenge.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about what that program is and how people can participate there.
Sure. So we've created this network model as part of the technology platform. So we've got a tech challenge, and we're encouraging all the tech companies to sign up as a team, and then connect with the tech network. And then a big part of Movember is around competition, around who can raise the most money in the tech platform as a team and an individual. Right. So.
And for those of you who are on the AppNexus Mo space, I highly encourage you to join the Getting Stashy With It team because we are going to win. I love competition, so I'm really excited that you said it was a really critical part.
Just going to chime in here real quick. There's also MoNexus Mo Stashes.
Right, that's true.
That's a pretty hot team, just saying.
It's a B team, the B League.
I'm not even over here, but we're number 36 in the nation right now.
And then
I disappeared.
You're going to look so good in the silver medal. All right, so we're going to, I think, do we have a couple minutes left for Q&A? Awesome. So we have an open mic over there that I believe has been turned on. So for anyone who's in the audience who would like to ask some questions, we will take those now. Sound good?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Too gentlemanly, you guys.
Hi. Carmine from Forrester Research. Adam, thank you very much for taking the long flight to America to talk to us.
Well, I live in LA. So
you live in LA.
Like,
so don't give him too much credit.
You got a head start.
6-hour flight.
You got a head start. So this is going to be my 4th year as a Mo Bro. As you can see, I have a lot of facial hair on my face right now. I've grown somewhat attached to it over the past couple of months. Now, facial hair.
I know what you're going to ask.
Facial hair is central to Movember. It's central to men's fashion. Obviously, the whole drive, as you said, came out of a conversation about men's fashion. I guess what I want to know, talking to a co-founder and CEO of Movember, what your opinion is on how badly I'll be ostracized if instead I shave my head and leave my facial hair.
sort of looks like you've already done that.
Close. I mean,
prepped it.
not much. There's not much.
Hey, the rules are the rules. But, you know, for me, and a lot of the beards that you see rocking around the place have been bought out of a Movember moustache. And, you know, I think, you know, for us, and this is why we're contemplating adding Move next year, is that we've literally, and it's not just us, but we've literally put the moustache back on the face of fashion, and it's gone back to beards and facial hair. And I think it's, you know, this is a whole nother topic around masculinity and that expression of being a man. And, you know, all I'd say is that all we want is for everyone to be part of Movember and to have a meaningful conversation. However you generate that, you know, it's totally up to you.
Cool.
I'll be rocking a moustache, but
that's all I wanted to hear. Thank you very much.
You've been approved.
Yeah.
Next person.
Don't tell that too widely.
Hey, thanks, Adam. My question was about, you've spoken a lot about the conversation, having that meaningful conversation, but then you've also spoken about the fundraising.
Yep.
I just wondered, as you grow bigger and bigger and bigger, what is your key message? Is it both of those things, or are you looking at one of them over the other? And within the fundraising piece, you mentioned briefly that you've gone into mental health for men as well.
Yes.
Are there other things you're looking to get into?
Yeah. So a couple of really good questions there. I've forgotten the first one.
The first one was just on, you know, meaningful conversation versus...
Yeah, it's a great question and something we've discussed a lot. For us, the conversation is more important because that often has a really immediate impact. And you know, there's so many, we get inundated by these wonderful stories. And what I didn't realize before coming across and launching Movember in America is one of the core holiday here is at the end of November. And so we'd get this influx of emails from guys going, hey, I'm rocking this stash. I'm not sure I can go home to Thanksgiving for, which I didn't realize you have the Christmas photos then or whatever. And and we would always encourage, it was like, no, go home, rock the mustache. And we get so many emails after Thanksgiving coming back and saying, hey, for the first time ever, you know, initially though, whoever it was criticized for having a mustache and looking like an 80s porn star at the Thanksgiving table. But the conversation then transcended into men's health. And for the first time ever, often, and they learned that their grandfather had prostate cancer. And then the younger guy that was at the table was then able to educate the dad around, hey, you're twice as likely to get prostate cancer if you've ever been screened. And then this guy goes and gets screened, he's found to have prostate cancer. So those conversations are so important because they have an immediate impact. So for us, you know, yes, fundraising is important. But for us, it's about participation, and no matter how good or bad, often the bad mustaches generate more conversation because it's like, what's going on? Like,
yeah.
And that's really important to us, and it gets men talking about stuff, and that is so critically important to solving this whole issue. So for us, the conversation is more important than the fun. Yeah. So the second part was
was about you moving into the sort of move space,
yeah,
and also you
the
said
mental
the
health.
expansion of mental health. Are there other areas that you guys are looking to?
Yeah, we didn't really touch on that. Mental health is it's really interesting topic, and clearly prostate and testicular cancer are male only. Mental health challenges affect men and women, but when you dive into the statistics, it's a really sad story for men. 3 out of 4 suicides are men. Men typically don't understand the signs and symptoms of a mental health challenge. They're really bad at seeking help when they have that, very good at masking it, unfortunately. So it's a really significant mental health issue, far more so than prostate or testicular cancer in our minds. And it's something that the 4 founders were touched by directly. So it's a cause we're really passionate about. It's a very, very, very complex area. But a big part of it, it comes back to your first question, is about opening up the conversation and creating this environment where men feel comfortable to go to their buddy. And this happened to me last year. This was the one conversation that made it all worthwhile. It was a friend of mine, 8 years. He goes, hey, I've never told you this, but I suffer from anxiety. I take medication for it. There's times when it's so bad I can't leave my home. I didn't know about this. I was a very good friend of mine for 8 years. And because we were talking about our stupid moustaches, this conversation bubbled up. And now that's changed our relationship. And I know to check in on him. And he knows he can call on me because I know what he's experiencing to a certain degree.
Thank you.
That's great. I think we have time for one more question.
Oh, we've got two.
Oh, we've got two.
Hi, I'm Janie. I just want, as a side note, when I worked at LinkedIn, our global leader, he quipped about how much sales we probably lost in November due to the entire global sales force looking like creeps. And it was probably very true because everyone had a mustache. So I wasn't aware of all the other issues that you're very prominently supporting, like getting men to talk about their health. And more importantly, I read a lot about how almost every health issue, the researchers are incentivized not to work together. And my dad died of cancer when I was 24. So it's important to me that, you know, we're never going to find a cure for colon cancer that way.
Right.
So is there, because you have so much leverage and you could affect those two areas, is there any way that you can drive that point with the leverage and the scale that you have for other issues?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the intellectual property and learnings that we're developing, you know, for us as a charity, we don't hold them proprietary to us, and we'll share them with everyone. The challenge, say, with colon cancer is there's no one truly at a global level that's able to, you know, connect, you know, researchers in different countries to come together and study this and collaborate. So, you know, our focus is prostate, testicular cancer, mental health, and then men's health more broadly. And we'll move into different areas. But yeah, we're totally open to sharing our learnings and things like that. But it sort of becomes hard because we don't have that influence over a particular cancer category. It's also interesting how this industry, for want of a better term, has developed because it's become about, you know, specific types of cancer, and you need to do that to a certain degree because they're all quite different. But colon cancer is, you know, again, it's one of these rare cancers, but it's very aggressive. Often there's no symptoms for it. So I'm not directly answering your question, but, you know, for anyone that wants to, you know, learn and take what we've developed here, we're totally open with that, and we'll share that with them. But it becomes about, you know, how do you influence all these different foundations and institutions? And, you know, when you get into this game, there's so many egos involved. It's sort of quite ridiculous, and often they lose sight of the end game, which is sort of curing these diseases. But I will say, and probably challenge your CEO, that there's so many stories when a dude rocks into a meeting with a moustache, there'll be another guy on the other side of the table, and it's a perfect icebreaker. It's like, hey, you doing Movember? It's like, yeah. And so they have this conversation about their moustaches. And there's been so many cases of where that creates this bond before you would talk about whatever sales deal or whatever is going on, that it just breaks. And, you know, this goes to the whole conversation about men's health, is, you know, us, you know, doing something so charitable that we're willing to wear it on our face. So I would challenge your CEO on that one.
He was joking, though.
All right. Well, thanks. Are we good? So thank you, everybody, for coming this evening. Please stick around. There's lots of food. There's going to be music. There's donation boxes. There's a business card, I think, drop area. So if you haven't already put one of those puppies in there, I think there are prizes associated with doing so. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but
cool
I
prizes for
like
Mo Bros and Mo Sisses.
Oh, and they're for everyone. So get excited. Adam, thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you, everybody. And let's go, Mo.